Hello again. Today I will speak with you about claims. We all hope for good arrivals. Us as exporters, because we don't like trouble, we don't like negotiations, and so does the importer. He doesn't like to deal with claims and he hopes for good arrivals that he can sell fast. But the more we ship, the more claims can happen. Sometimes the mistake is at our end. Wrong labeling, wrong packaging, wrong product, wrong sizes, many wrongs can happen. Um, this can be due to negligence. Sometimes it's a problem that is inherent in the fruit that we don't see upon packing. Sometimes it happens in transit due to malfunction of the cooling equipment. Many reasons can be behind a claim. Sometimes it's also a fake claim by the receiver because his market is under stress, or he agreed with you on a fixed price or a minimum price guarantee because he wanted to get that specific product, and he agreed on the price actually with a bad intention to screw you. When he's very far away, sometimes it's so hard to prove the claim um, and to settle with him. Now, what to do in case of claim? Number one, make a claim policy, and you should send that to your client either before the season starts and let him acknowledge that he received the claim policy, or you attach it to the shipping documents that you send to him for every load. Some people include a small claim policy in their invoices, but make it visible to him and let him acknowledge that he got it. So the best thing to do is to have a one-pager, a claim handling document that outlines what to do in case of claim, whom to contact, and when. So typically, what happens is that when you sell CIF, let's say CIF, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Moscow, whatever, yeah, whatever CIF and port of discharge you agree with him, very often the quality inspection is not done in this port upon offloading from the vessel. Practically, the quality inspection will happen at arrival at the warehouse. Now you can discuss this if this is the right way to do it or not, but industry practice is that the quality control happens at warehouse, and this is usually not debatable. And this has to be clear to both ends where the quality inspection has to take place. Uh, this should be part of your initial discussions with your client and can also be part of your claim policy where the quality inspection has to be done. So to give you an example, Egypt is shipping to Port of Ravenna on CIF terms, and then the goods are trucked to Munich in Germany, and in Munich the quality control is checking the product and will say, okay, green light, everything is good, or small claim, or comments, or total loss. Yeah. When should they report this to you? Actually, within realistically 48 hours from arrival at the warehouse or in the port of discharge, depending on your agreement that you have. In some cases, the transit from port to warehouse is not long. Sometimes it's the same city or nearby, but sometimes it's long transit when you choose, for example, to go to Russia, and then it's the goods are arriving in a seaport and are trucked far deep into the country with a transit of several days. There you have no control over the equipment, what is happening with your product, how is it treated, is the genset set on, and so forth. So in that case, when there's a long transit, you should agree with your client that there has to be a preliminary inspection in the port of discharge before the container is forwarded to the final destination. So, common practice again, 48 hours within arrival, they should send you a quality report or report any kind of claim or observation. Now, in some markets, they don't give you quality reports upon arrival when there's no issue. You only hear from them when you ask or when there's any issue. Typically, the Asian markets, they don't give you the QC reports. You will only hear from them, with an issue, or in the best case, you'll find your payment and then everything is good. Or the next order without any comment, so you can assume that everything went well. Sometimes asking for a quality report is waking sleeping dogs, and then they will come back with, yeah, okay, but we don't want to open doors for that. So again, make it very clear in your claim handling policy what they have to do. So let's say report any claim within 48 hours from arrival. Mention your contact details where they can reach somebody who's responsible for the claim, the export manager or the logistics manager or whoever in your company will be responsible for responding to a claim. And internally, of course, that person should report the claim to your quality department, commercial, financial, and so on, so that everybody is aware of the situation and that there will be probably some price negotiations. Please always ask when they say this is, sometimes you have a quality report that outlines clearly what is the situation, but sometimes there's only a red flag. We are raising a potential claim. Now, what is this claim? Is it big? Is it small? What is it exactly? Is it damaged boxes? Is it wrong labels? Or is it decay in the punnets? Or is it squeezed? Whatever. You have to understand exactly what is the claim. So, if they raise a red flag, please ask, is this a claim or is it an observation? If it is a claim, what is the problem exactly? How many percent of defects have you found? How many percent of cartons are destroyed? Sometimes they can give you total numbers. Sometimes they can give you assumptions. Yeah, and then you can ask for a surveyor to come and check your shipment. Sometimes the surveyor is hard to find. Yeah, in some markets that are totally underdeveloped, it's very difficult to find a surveyor. For example, in Myanmar in Asia doesn't have own surveyors. They have to bring them from Vietnam or from Cambodia or other countries in the neighborhood. So that means beside the cost of the surveyor, they have to add a per diem, ticket, hotel, and so on. Sometimes the claim is too small to afford this expense. That would be important in case of total loss, but not when there's a claim of $1,000. Yeah. Sometimes the claim is so small that it is not necessary to bring a surveyor because he will just add to the costs but will not bring you any benefit. When you're in doubt with a client that maybe he's not honest, maybe you know someone whom you can send to check on your goods. Sometimes maybe the claim seems to be so inflated and unrealistic even when there's a surveyor report or you don't trust the surveyor. You may even go by yourself and check what has happened exactly. A very good example is an arrival of mandarins from Egypt to the Philippines. They were quality checked before departure from Egypt, but that doesn't mean that their arrival quality is already improved. approved. So there was a preliminary check upon loading. Everything seemed to be okay, but there was an inherent problem in the mandarins. And when 5 containers arrived to Manila, unfortunately, 5 containers were basically rubbish. The client tried to sort the product and collect some fruits that he repacked and tried to send to the market. And after a few pallets of resorting, he gave up because resorting was too hard. Plus, the shelf life of the remaining products that he thought he could be selling to minimize the loss. Actually, the quality didn't hold. And then clients returned the pallets to the buyer. So here we were talking about 5 containers total loss that had to be destroyed. There was labor cost, there was storage cost, transportation, and a lot of other cost elements that were added. So for 5 containers, all of a sudden, there was invoices, or the total loss, including all cost, was nearly 100,000 US dollars. The client was asked to go to the Philippines and see these 5 containers by himself. And he was asked specifically because the client was afraid that this shipper would not accept the claim in the end when he knows the final financial result. But the exporter said, no, client, I trust you. Everything is okay. You do your best, and then unfortunately, we will have to accept the claim. But then when the big bill came and all the costs were presented to the shipper, the almost $100,000 loss, he didn't accept the claim. He said, no, we don't accept, and we will not bear this loss. You have to share with us. Now, if a receiver really has to share, personally, I don't agree. The responsibility is with the exporter. As a sign of goodwill and cooperation, and when you have a long-standing partnership, yes, as a client, I may share in the cost, but this will really depend on the whole account. But if any receiver is willing to chip in 100,000 US dollars, I don't think so. Yeah, so what happened in the end, to cut a long story short, shipper didn't accept, client didn't want to chip in, a lot of haggling and negotiations. In the end, the exporter issued a credit note of 20,000 US dollars, and they were not willing to chip in one more penny. And the client had to pay almost 80,000 of this loss. But they agreed that in the next season, they would first of all consume the credit note and do a lot of shipments at a preferred price. And so the client could recover some of his losses. It was done in good faith. Next season came. Exporter changed his payment terms from 70% against documents to 80% against documents, and quoted fantasy prices that didn't allow the client to place new orders, because that would have meant only pushing money from left pocket to the right pocket and not help in any form in any kind of recovery. So years were going on. The year after, the client tried again to consume his credit note. The exporter said, now my payment terms are 100% against documents. And the prices that he quoted again were very, very high prices that were over the market. So again, the client had no chance to consume his credit note. Today, this case is in front of the economic court in Egypt, and the exporter is sentenced to jail if he doesn't pay the amount. So this is a very bad example of how a claim can go, and it's an example of very bad behavior of of an exporter. So in the case of claim, please always react immediately to the claim notification. Try to understand what is the reason of your claim. If you pack the wrong sizes, sorry, that's a stupidity mistake and you have to bear it. If the genset failed in your equipment, then it's a case for your marine cargo insurance. It's also a case for a claim against the shipping line. So in case that you have technical problems in your equipment and you receive notice from your client, always tell him to stop offloading, close the container, call the shipping line for a joint survey, and then see the result. Yeah, if the surveyor can confirm the attendance of a representative of the shipping line that the claim is due to the malfunction of the equipment, then you have good chances to recover this loss. In other cases, you may not recover. When that happens, yes, you can try to negotiate, but it is always important to keep your reputation as a good exporter and to secure future business and not burn your name in a market, to be accepting of realistic claims and not walk away from your responsibility. And I will give you another example, what happened just recently in 2021. And that was a very bitter lesson for the client. He wanted to buy cherries from Uzbekistan. And there was a lot of effort done in Uzbekistan to get the shipment on the way. The exporter insisted on 100% cash in advance. The client asked if this is a trustable business, is this a trustable supplier? And the supplier said, my word is my honor. If there's any claim, I will return the money. Okay, so the client trusted all the parties and he paid 100% in advance. But unfortunately, due to different factors, one of them, because it was an air shipment, the shipment arrived to the airport too late because the exporter had miscalculated the time for departure from his warehouse. So cherries arrived too late at the airport, had to return to the warehouse and wait another few days to finally fly off to Dubai. In Dubai, at the first quality check, they looked fine, but 2 days later, they were all rotten because of problems in the cold chain and wrong packing with pallet covers. So under the pallet cover, because of wrong handling, there was actually a sauna which led to a decay of the product. Now, when the supplier learned about the quality claim of this shipment, he didn't remember his word that he said, my word is my honor and I will pay all the claims. He simply walked away and he said, in this shipment, I made only $1,500 profit. Why should I pay this claim? The client himself, he lost almost $4,000. Wouldn't it have been prudent of this exporter to give at least $1,500 his profit to the client to keep the good relationship? No, he didn't. He simply walked away. He didn't follow up. So the client was very frustrated. The result is that while he was planning for more business from Uzbekistan, he said, never ever again. Yeah, so my good advice to you, always keep up the communication with your client, negotiate, and don't let one small claim burn the whole business. Yeah, and in that case, it is not only cherries from Uzbekistan from this specific supplier, but it's cherries from Uzbekistan that this client will never buy again. So it's affecting the whole country and the whole business. And as the receiver is in Dubai and it's a small market, the whole Dubai wholesale market knew about this situation. So there are plenty of companies that were also looking at shares from Uzbekistan, and all of them will never buy following this bad example. So there are lessons to be learned from this transaction. First of all, buyers will hesitate to pay 100% in advance because the supplier didn't honor his word. So if that happens with one, it can happen with many. So 100% in advance for sure will never happen again. So in that case, it is more likely to turn into a minimum price guarantee deal or even open consignment, maybe some fixed price, but definitely not 100% in advance. Maybe 50, maybe 40, whatever in advance, or 100% after arrival. So this is the downside of the business that can happen, dishonest suppliers. But sometimes also you have the opposite, that the buyer is dishonest and he's creating fake claims, and you have to make sure that he cannot do it. When you have a claim and you're convinced through surveyor results that the claim is true, and you have seen photos and videos and so on, try to assess what is the value of this claim and ask for a claim value as soon as possible. And if this has this shipment, if it was on a fixed price agreement, and because of the condition of the goods, it has to turn into a consignment, and the buyer will just sell it as good as he can, try to push on a quick result, because that can really drag forward until the final results are in, and maybe your client is not so interested to give attention to this product, so the sales will be slow and the decays will increase and so forth. So please keep communication with the client about the claim. Acknowledge what you have to acknowledge. If you have a marine cargo insurance, this is very good. It will cover claims of that are related to temperature abuse, either too cold or too hot, fluctuating temperatures, so on. Inform your insurance immediately once you learn about the claim. Sometimes they want to send their own surveyor. Sometimes they will accept any surveyor. It depends on the condition of your insurance contract. Please make sure about your conditions that you know them by heart, and include also instructions of your marine cargo insurance in your claim handling document. For example, if your insurance says the receiver has to check the goods upon arrival, and in case of any claim, he has to inform the local Lloyd surveyor or whatever surveyor, provide the link how your client can find the nearest Lloyd surveyor. Don't let him search and delay, and then he will have an excuse not to call a surveyor or to call another surveyor, and that can destroy a valid claim actually. In your pricing, when you do your price calculation, put part of the profit margin allocated to a potential claim. Sometimes this is not easy when margins are really, really tight. But in most cases, we are not dealing with total losses. We are dealing with partial losses, and sometimes they are small. Many cases you will be able to pay the claim from the profit, in a fixed price agreement. In minimum price guarantee, it can affect the return and the minimum price that you have agreed on when the claim is too big. In an open consignment, you will see the sales result as your receiver goes and sells the product. Another very important part of this deal should be that no unilateral decisions are taken. If you have a fixed price agreement and your client comes back to you and says, hey, I have so and so many percent decay in a box of your product, first of all, consult the international specifications and the specs that you have shared with the client and that he accepted or that he presented to you and according to which you packed. Is your shipment really inside the specs or outside the specs? How much is it outside the specs? If it's just little outside the specs, ask for a fixed amount in the claim. Don't let him turn it into a consignment. Yeah, sometimes the consignment will just take too much time. Your money will come back late. It gives too many loopholes for a bad result. If you can ask for a fixed price as soon as possible, you can minimize your loss and you can make sure, if he agrees, that you can get your money according to the initially agreed payment terms. So instead of, let's say, going for a consignment, turning the fixed price into a consignment, you can maybe agree on a discount of $1 per box or 50 cents per box, whatever. So other than that, I wish you all good luck. Please always check the specifications under which you pack. Make it very clear to your client if something is affecting the fruit, and that could lead to a potential claim. Let's say it's going towards the end of the season. Your quality, even in class 1, is not as good as it used to be 2 months ago in the beginning of the season. You see more cosmetic defects at this point in time. Inform your client that your class 1 today is not like class 1 2 months ago, and that the defects he has to accept if he wants the shipment is not 10% maximum, but is maybe 15 or 20%. Discuss it with him. Inform him about any factors that could affect the shipment. Anything in the nature of the fruit that he may not like upon arrival. Give him examples by photos and tell him these are the defects that we see frequently today. And then let him decide. And if he agrees that you can pack 15% instead of 10% defects, that he will accept bigger blemishes than he would accept 2 months before. If he agrees all of this in writing, then he cannot claim after arrival unless there's another problem that is occurring. So please try to protect yourself. Give him as much information as you can, because sometimes it's better to call off a deal when there are expected problems than pushing the sales by any means. Yeah, this can so much fire back at you. If you have any questions regarding marine cargo insurance, I think you should consult uh, one of the insurance companies in your country, if that is available locally. Sometimes also local insurance law says that local interest must be insured in the country of origin. If you cannot find insurance in your country and you want to export and you want to find marine cargo insurance, you may go through a lawyer, a broker, and he can find insurance at Lloyd's in London or with other reinsurers. He can search for you to find this. And yeah, what I didn't mention is the MRLs, maximum residue levels. They can be a killer in any shipment to a destination that is requiring certain residue levels in the product. Sometimes the local labs are not as advanced as a destination, and we see that often in Egypt. Yeah, they can test for a lot of substances, but somehow the test result in Egypt is not the same as testing the same product, the same sample from the same plot at a lab abroad. So to build confidence with your receiver, maybe you can send the first sample to his lab abroad instead of using your local sample. This will give you a lot of comfort to know that everything is okay. And as you go on in the season, knowing your spray records, you know what you're doing. And if there's no cross contamination from your neighbor, your product should be all right. But make sure that everything is okay, because if you have a claim due to MRLs in Europe, this means that your product will be destroyed, and you have no chance of of recovering this or shipping it to another market. It will be very, very difficult. Yeah. So if you have any questions regarding claims, definitely we can answer your questions and help you either in the further discussion with the trainer, or even send us emails to give you more advice. We cannot consult on specific claims that have already happened, but we can give you a guideline how to go forward. Thank you very much. Good luck.